You ready, Courtney? Courtney?
I'm ready. Good God. All right.
Courtney, it's so good to see your face.
It's so good
Welcome
to
to the
see yours.
podcast.
Welcome. Welcome, Emily. Thank you. Here I am.
Oh, I missed you last week.
I know. I miss being with you guys.
You're here today. And all of our listeners, thank you for tuning into That Wasn't the Plan. Courtney's back in action. Yay. There will be much rejoicing.
Yes. Let the drinks flow.
Let them flow. So without any further ado, I kind of just want to get to our guest today. Today we have Lindsay Brockman with us. Lindsay is a licensed veterinary nurse and an LVT, 15 years across the ER, end of life, and community medicine. She is also a certified pet loss grief specialist, and she runs a practice called Everkin Pet Loss Support out of Richmond, Virginia, where she offers one-on-one grief sessions, group workshops, and this is the part that I love, grief literacy training for veterinary teams, because sometimes the people on the other side of the exam table need support too. Lindsay's whole framework is built around something called disenfranchised grief, which is a fancy term for a simple yet brutal idea. The grief the world doesn't quite know how to honor. The grief that gets the "it was just a pet" comment, or "you'll get another one."
I'm already crying. Oh, my Lord.
You better saddle up. You better saddle up. Nailed that intro too. That's such a mouthful. Anytime someone's like, "What do you do?" and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
It's like the silence where a casserole should be, and her whole practice is about rejecting that. So she brings her own grief to this conversation, which we can touch on, Lindsay, if you're up for that.
Don't know how not to touch on it, so.
Okay. Her son, Jack, was stillborn at 38 weeks, and Lindsay has said the two losses share some of the same weight. Her tagline is a Ram Dass quote, "We are all just walking each other home," which tells our listeners and Courtney and myself everything we need to know about who she is. So, Lindsay, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That was a nice intro.
Well, the work you do just sounds incredible. When I reached out to you to find out if you'd be interested in coming on the podcast, I think it was the next morning, I walked out into my front yard and my baby cat, it was around 5:45 in the morning, and I let her out so she can sniff and do her thing, but something seemed odd, and I walked out to the sidewalk and there was a coyote right there, and it scared the shit out of me. Ran into the yard looking for my cat. You immediately popped into my mind, and I was like, I need to talk to Lindsay, because had anything happened to her, she really is my life. I don't consider myself a crazy cat mom. My world revolves around this little thing. We have seen each other through so much. She was, there for me during COVID, during cancer. So
I don't subscribe to the term crazy cat mom, if it makes you feel better. I don't believe in that. And the world is small. My mother-in-law, who passed away a couple of years ago, she had cancer, but when she was going through chemo, she got her cat, little kitty, who she called her chemo cat. I know that helped her get through a lot of years too. So yeah, I mean, there's so much more than just.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So take us back, like 15 years in vet medicine, ER, community work, end of life. What was the moment or the case that made you realize that you needed to do the work that you're doing now?
I don't know that there was one single case, right? So I started in emergency medicine when I got licensed, and I know that that we say there's general practice, like, so just the vet that you take your cat to for wellness, sick, whatever, and then there's urgent care practices, there's ER, there's all these different things now. But I started in ER and kind of like just being thrown to the fire. It's a sink or swim. And seeing sort of the trauma that comes in and how people are expected to, and it's no fault of anybody, right? Because in the ER that I was in was wonderful people, but often short-staffed, super busy, like just under-resourced, that kind of thing. And so we're under-resourced, and then the clients are coming in, they're already at a level 10, understandably. And so people are just sort of missing each other when they communicate. When you're running around and doing CPR on more than one thing at a time, like, it gets to be so busy. Do you have space for grief in that moment? Not really. So there's just so much that's lacking. And everyone's doing the best they can. So I saw it there first, I think. I mean, I remember a million, there are a lot of pets that I still think about. Ones who had guardians present with them, ones who didn't. There's a lot of grief on the team end as well, for those of us that are working, right?
Mhm.
In Batman, we compartmentalize it, but there's a lot of grief there, a lot of
Yeah.
cumulative grief. And then I think I've worked at a bunch of different places. When I ended up in nonprofit community, Batman was where I had a little bit more time, not much, but a little bit more time to slow down and really notice that gap that that exists, where even though we're doing the best we can, oftentimes owners are just, there's a lack of grief literacy, I guess, is the best way to say it.
You've written that you've watched vet professionals get thrown into the emotional trenches without any training. What did that look like from the inside?
Yeah, that looks like from the first, when I start, so I was in my 20s when I started in ER, for example. It wouldn't be atypical for me to be working as a technician on an overnight, and I would be with the doctor and no one else. So there were times where we would have pets that were hospitalized, that needed ongoing care because they were hospitalized. They had treatment sheets we were working on with them. Then we would have clients come in with their pets, for maybe it's a wound and we can do it outpatient, or they're coming in for a euthanasia, or they're coming in and it ends up being a surgery and we call someone in to help, but it would just be us. And so I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. And I would be essentially the technician or the nurse and the assistant and working the front desk. And so when someone would come in, particularly for a euthanasia, which is something that you should have, dedicated time to be able to walk someone through and sit in that with them for them to sort of process it. And I remember just thinking, one, I'm pretty good at this. And it's very rewarding to be the person that's able to help, but then also we can do this so much better. So yeah, being thrown to the fire, I think that's one example for sure.
Yeah, so that kind of prompted you to, were you thinking that you could maybe potentially start this conversation inside a clinic, or did you think that you could build Everkin, your practice now, that can help, people across the country, across the world with this grief? And it was just probably a better idea for you to do that than stay within one clinic and
So yeah, sort of the latter. So
okay.
because I just think, as much as I wish that, and people who work in veterinary medicine, overwhelmingly are there. They're not there because they're making a ton of money. Like they're there because they genuinely love what they do and they want to help people and they want to help pets. And so you already have this group of people who are incredibly empathetic, very compassionate, and then they're often overworked, understaffed, all of that. So I don't have an unrealistic I think it'd be an unrealistic expectation that you'd really be able to get to a place, at least as veterinary medicine exists and is structured right now, where teams have the space and the time to walk with people through grief in the way that we really want them to, in the way that they want to as well. And so I think oftentimes, people, one of two things is happening. Like they're being told, often compassionately as best they can in the moment by the veterinarian, hey, it looks like, we're approaching end of life and here are your options. And they're overwhelmed and confused and don't know how to navigate that. And or after the euthanasia or after the death of a pet, whether it's traumatic or whatever else, they're sort of leaving like, what the hell do I do now? Where do I go? And oftentimes, I'm in therapy. I love therapy for everybody, right? Personally, it's my
Yes, ma'am. Therapy for all.
therapy for all. But a lot of times, I think there's a gap there too, unless someone's like specializing in pets specifically. Like there's just this gap that exists. And so I hear from people a lot, like, I still feel like it was minimized or wasn't really understood, or we kind of glossed over it or whatever. And so I thought, I've been doing this organically and in a not unprofessional capacity, but like just as part of my job of what I've been doing for so long, I should really look into, could this in itself, supporting these pet guardians during this time of grief, like be its own thing? And I thought, why not?
Yeah.
And so I looked into it, and it turns out it can. If you are a licensed veterinary technician, this is a specialty you can go into, like sort of as a branch off of your license. And so I was like, well, let's do that, please. And so then, here we are. And I just thought, well, maybe if nobody's interested in it, like worst it can do is fail. I don't know, but it but it hasn't. So there is a great need for it, for the one-on-one support sessions in particular.
And it certainly shouldn't. And I'm in AA, and a lot of times people come in and are sharing when they lose a pet, and every single one of us is like, we take a knee. Like, I am more there for people when they lose a pet than my friends who have lost their children, who have lost. I always say it's a deeper, it's a more private pain. It's just so different. I lost my dog Rooster in 2020. What a jerk! Died in the fucking pandemic, scumbag. And I lost her in a traumatic way because she was sick. I took her in. She had congenital heart failure. I was like, do we need to have the end of life talk? And they're like, no, not yet, not yet. We're going to keep her overnight, put her in an oxygen tank thing. And then they called me at 3 a.m. and said, we're losing her. Do you want us to resuscitate her? And I said, no, I'm on my way. And it gives me goosebumps. Yeah, I was driving at 2 a.m, just sobbing and just calling to her saying, I'm coming. And I got there, and of course they hadn't unlocked the doors. So I'm outside, like, it was very, very theatrical. And I did not get to see her before she died, but I got to hold her after. And there was only like 2 technicians, and they were very young, God bless them. And I'm holding my dead dog, which is extremely hard. And then I spent my time with her, and then I was done, and I couldn't find anybody to take her. So I'm walking around this animal hospital, like with my dead dog, and I'm like, hello.
And
I love her, but
yeah, that happens. So, and I can't tell you how many times too, and you're like, they were so young. Like, yeah, that was me on those ER overnights, because
loves their hearts too. Yeah.
When you're young and you're new, I mean, not exclusively, but a lot of times that's who's doing those overnights. Yeah, that's tough. And that's what I mean when I talk about grief literacy for teams as well, is I think certain personality types are better at it. For sure. And that's something that's not always learned. And then also, with experience, it can come too. But yeah, there's still a lot of like uncomfortability around grieving pet guardians, which it's such a huge part of vet med. And so, there are just everybody, I think we all can do better. And there's a lot to learn. You said, and I didn't know how soon we'd segue into it, but you said something about pets and children, and like losing a pet and losing a child. And
sorry, I just jumped right in, didn't I?
no, don't be sorry. In so January 21st, Jack, our son Jack, was born, and it was a perfect pregnancy, and for him and for me, and a wonderful, medical team and everything. And for reasons that we probably won't ever know, he was stillborn. And so that was the worst thing I've ever been through, and I hope it's the worst thing I ever go through. And I remember thinking, like, it took weeks to even be able to function and come out of that in any semblance of like a human being. But I remember telling my husband, like, I've worked so hard to put this thing together with Everkin, and like, I don't know if I can do it. What if I can't do it? Because if I feel like this forever, how could I help somebody else and like extend some part of me to help someone else who's grieving, and it took a while. It's been less than 4 months, but it is something that, like any kind of grief, but like I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I am a different person, and certainly part of me died with.
Did your work at Everkin, your pet grief, prepare you for the loss of your son, Jack, or did that teach you something new about your own work?
Both. I think that's such a good question. I remember being really angry. Sometimes I'm still really angry, but I remember being really angry that at just sort of like the cruel joke was what it felt like at the time, of like coming home and, his nursery remains untouched, but like coming home and seeing all the books on my bookshelf about grief and, um, from school, and also just because I had an interest in things like that, and just being like, what the fuck, like, and it just this surreality of it all. It's an ever evolving thing. But what I have come to realize as I sort of eased back into things, and my books are open on June 1st.
Okay.
So you can book, but they're back open on June 1st. What I've sort of come to realize is like, I don't like a grief competition. No one wins.
No.
Nobody's grief is the same. Even if you lose, someone else's stillbirth grief is not the same as mine. Like, it's just all, and I had this moment where I thought, okay, I can do this, because we were home, and my husband said, I mean, both of us always are, I want him back, but
Well, yeah.
he said, I remember him saying, like, I just wish we could at least have Oliver. And Oliver was our last dog before Curly Sue that we had put to sleep maybe 2 years ago now, which is crazy. But he was such a good boy. And he was like just such a good cuddle bug. And I thought, like, yeah, there's something really important there. Because I do too. Like, I would do just about anything to have my baby here. But if I couldn't, like, I would at least bargain with the universe, right? Like, could I just have Oliver then? And I think that says something to how deeply connected we are to our companion animals, that like in the worst moments of my life, I thought I'd give anything to have my son, but if I can't have him, just give me my fucking dog back, And that would help. I mean, and I think our connections to our companion animals go so much deeper than people understand. They're often our first sense of safety and unconditional love and no judgment, and that bond and that love, it stays, which is why the grief stays. But
so kind of on that note, walk us through what disenfranchised grief actually means for somebody hearing the term possibly for the first time.
Yeah, I think, again, in the universe's cruel way of just sort of playing around, like, there's so many parallels between my personal life right now and the work. Disenfranchised grief, so all it is just a type of grief or loss that's not often recognized by society as a whole. So, as we all know, we have a whole lot of work to do, I think, in our world, in our culture in particular, for when it comes to death and dying, and how to have a good death, and how to grieve, and how to support people who are grieving, and how not to say things that, make people want to throat punch you when they're in the midst of grief, many of which I've heard as of late. So that's disenfranchised grief, and I think pet loss grief is one of the biggest types of disenfranchised grief, for sure, as is, stillbirth and infant loss. So, there's all these weird parallels, and you'd asked to, like, has this informed a new perspective? I don't know how you worded it, but has this informed a new perspective for you on the work you do? And it has. Like, I would give anything to not have had this perspective. And I don't subscribe to everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that. But I do, I can find some purpose in it, in that I think this is the depth of grief that allows me to connect with people in a different way. If I can look at somebody and say, and I have, my baby died. I picked a headstone for my baby, and it's fucking terrible. It's terrible. And your grief over your pet is valid. So if I can tell you that, right, then I feel like, and I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but then I feel like nobody gets to take that from you, and nobody gets to take it from you anyway. But often you'll hear, oh, well, it's just a pet. But I'm telling you, I've experienced one of the most terrible types of loss I think you can. And and so if I can say, yeah, but your grief is valid, and like how you feel is valid, then maybe people will believe it.
That's so powerful. Wow.
Yeah, I think you articulated that beautifully. Well said.
So well said. Wow.
You also said something on your blog there is no time limit on grief because there's no time limit on love.
Right. And I do recognize too that like a lot of times when I'm talking about grief, and I'll say things about, you know, that bond remains and that love remains. I do also recognize mostly outside of pet loss, there are types of grief that don't always involve that kind of love. You know, you grieve complicated relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to pet loss, yeah, I mean, I think that's the common thread, is that love is a really big love. They're so present with us, but in every moment of the day. I mean, they're so ingratiated into our routines, and our pets regulate our nervous systems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like you feel that loss in such a visceral way. And it does feel very empty. And so, yeah, I don't even remember where I was going. I'm like Michael Scott. You know, when Michael Scott on The Office, I mean, sometimes I just start a sentence and I hope I find it along
Yeah,
the way.
I do that at least 5 times a day.
Yeah, that's me.
That's
Well, I have
all I
grief,
am.
I mean, and grief does that to you too, by the way. Oh,
Absolutely.
timeline. That's what you said. Yeah, no, there's no timeline. And so sometimes you will hear, and I see it play out too, because I have a work account for Eberkin. And so I will see people who are well-meaning. We have to move on or just get another pet. And it's like, that's harmful. You know, their intent isn't to be harmful, but the impact is the same. Like that's harmful. Please don't say that to someone who's grieving a pet. You have to move on. We don't move on. I don't move on from the pets that I've lost. I don't move on from my baby. We move forward. We move with. We try to find ways to take them, carry them with us, and continue to honor them. And there are ways that we can continue to connect with the ones that we love after they're gone. It's not the same, and that's painful. But there are ways we can stay connected to them. So yeah, there's no timeline. It's not like, okay, great, we've hit X amount of time and you are good to go.
You're set.
Yeah.
Right. Like it should be over and done with. It's time for you to re-engage and be back
Right.
to who you were. And that's not possible.
No.
You're
Yeah,
you're a
you just-
different person. If somebody's listening right now and they've just lost something, a pet, a person, a pregnancy, a future, and the people around them are saying the wrong things or not saying anything at all, what would you want them to know?
That's such a good question. And this is something that, and this is another one of those things too, where it's like, I wish I didn't have this perspective, but I feel in doing something with it to help other people, maybe it's a way to honor Jack as well. I try really hard to have grace for people when they say certain things. You know, there are some older people in my life who I think I try to remember we're raised in a very different time, and we're taught to shove things deep down, and that makes me so sad. So I try really hard to give people grace. For me personally, intent is helpful. So if it's someone I know and I know they're just like, I just don't know what to say. But the best thing you can say to someone is, I just don't know what to say, but this sucks, and I'm here and I'm not leaving. So I think when you hear those comments, right? Like when you hear everything happens for a reason, God has a plan, we just don't understand it, right? Some of those things. I don't know that there's a wrong way to respond, right? And so if you are grieving and you in that moment feel like you have the capacity to do the emotional labor, because it is emotional labor to explain to someone why that's upsetting, do that. But we frankly don't always have the capacity for that when we're grieving. And so it's also perfectly okay, and don't beat yourself up over it if you're just like, okay, and that's all you can do. I think too, it's more painful for me and for a lot of people when people just ghost rather than say the wrong thing. I would rather you say the wrong thing than just to not show up.
Okay.
And grievers don't often have, again, the capacity to say, hey, you didn't show up and it hurt me. They just, sort of disengage.
Absolutely.
And so I think maybe the best advice is just to know that, particularly in pet loss grief, like when someone says to you, it's just a pet, that to remember that that's a reflection of them and not a reflection of you and your love with your pet, your bond with your pet, and how sad for them that they
Absolutely.
can't understand that kind of bond that
So
then
yeah.
necessitates that kind of grief, that they
Mhm.
cannot understand that. They've never experienced it. Or maybe they're not
It's
capable of experiencing it. And that's really fucking sad. That's really
That's
sad for them.
so heartbreaking.
so sad because I know Courtney and I have both had such huge, amazing, incredible, beautiful bonds with our pets before.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
still to this day. And yeah, it does make me sad when somebody's never had that with an animal.
It's
I
wild.
don't, I can't understand it.
I can't either.
I
Yeah.
can't fathom it because maybe we're all this way. But, if I'm at a gathering or whatever, like I'm in the corner with the dog or the cat, whatever.
Right?
And I've always been that way. So to me, that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
But it is when people say things like that, or if they say, well, just go get another one. And it's like, well, so that's akin to someone saying to me, well, just have another baby. Well, it's a whole ass human being, right? And this was a whole animal companion all its own. It's not, there is no replacement. We can move forward. We can decide to try again, whether, we can decide to adopt another pet when they, like Curly Sue, when they find us or when we feel called to, when that feels right or not. And all of that is valid. But it's not a band-aid to fix grief. There is no fixing grief. We just learn to carry it. But she showed up, Curly Sue, I woke her up. She's so mad.
Courtney, where's your little one?
Yeah.
She's in the bathroom. I mean, I'm in a closet, which is for the best because she's wild and she's a full blown puppy right now, and I love her so much.
She just wants to be held. But the crazy thing is I don't really know I don't know what I just saw her on Instagram. I think Richmond Animal League, a shout out, posted her. And I was like, 15? Nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna come get this dog. And she looks so sad. I didn't realize she was this small either. And so when I went in and I just thought, I don't know, something, I mean, if you're a pet person, you just know. I just thought, I just gotta go see her. And so we went in and my friend was working. I didn't know she was gonna be working that day, but she was like walking out as I was walking in. And she said, I know who you're here to see. Because we worked at the Richmond PCA together. And she's like, I know you like those crunchy old dogs. So you are correct. You are correct. So, yeah. And when we went to see her, she was hiding under her blanket in the kennel. And she was like, and I was like, I can't, what am I going to leave her here? So unless she tries to bite my face off, was pretty much a done.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is when the hospital sent me home with the hospital was wonderful. It was the worst thing ever, but they were very kind and I would say pretty grief literate, to be honest with you. Thankfully, because that's not always the case from a lot of the other moms.
Nice to hear.
Oh, geez.
But they sent me home. There's a volunteer organization called Weighted Angels in our area. I think it might be in Roanoke too. I don't know, but they're in like Richmond and the Tri-Cities, and they make these weighted stuffed animals that weigh roughly the same as your baby, so you don't leave the hospital without holding something. And because birthing your child, I mean, I birthed him like any other delivery, and so but knowing he was dead, and so and then holding him and then having eventually to give your baby back there aren't words for that. So I didn't put that thing down for weeks. I held onto that, and it's a wonderful idea. I don't know who came up with that, but that is to say, when we went in and I saw her, and I'm again not one of these people that's like everything happens for a reason. I tend to think I find meaning in certain things, and but I was like, oh my God, she's so small when she came in. I wasn't expecting her to be so small from her picture, and she weighs almost exactly what Jack weighed. And so bringing her home and all she wants to do is be held. And so it was like, it's not, and I think a lot of people in grief can relate to this. you're pissed at the universe, right? Because it's like, on the one hand, it's like, this seems really fortuitous that I, all of a sudden felt compelled to come see this dog, and all she wants to do is be held like a baby, and she's grieving because her owner died. And so now I have her on my chest instead of the weighted angel. And um, it's a comfort. But then at the same time, you're like, well, if you can do all that for me, universe, maybe you could have,
Yeah.
could have kept my baby alive. Like
Right.
so there's, but that's grief, is that we hold so many things at one time,
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. And it's called Weighted Angels.
Weighted angels. And we found out that there was almost $1,000 donated from our friends and family in Jack's name, which is huge for them, because they're
Oh,
small volunteer run, so that lets them make more of these weighted angels. Um,
how
and all of them,
lovely.
it's really important, yeah, to not leave. You leave with a box. You give birth and you leave with a box. And so to at least have something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, and you and Curly Sue can be there for one another during both of your
Curly
grief.
Sue. Did Curly Sue come with the name Curly Sue?
She did, yeah, because her hair is going to be curly when it grows back. I think she's some sort of poodle thing, and so yeah. And I loved that movie when I was little.
Me too. This is
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah,
Oh,
loved it. So I was
wow.
like, we're gonna keep the.
Yeah,
My daughter
absolutely.
calls her Susan because she thinks it's funny that. Sure.
Where's Susan? I love that. Yeah. I wanted to name our puppy Patricia, but nobody was on board with it. So we had to go with Puppy.
Our last cat, who was the best cat ever. He was a tuxedo. His name was Alan. That came from the Richmond SPCA, and to their credit, they named him, which isn't surprising. That's where I worked also, but it isn't surprising. When you know them, because you're like, they do have fun with the names, like it tracks. But yeah, his name was Alan.
Courtney said it on one of our last episodes, and I've been on board with this for years, loving the older human names for animals, like Alan, Patricia, Susan,
Steven,
Gary.
Susan.
Yeah. I had
Gary.
a cat, one named, I named him Frank.
I like
Love Frank.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the kids that I have stepkids and they're adults, they don't find that funny. Oh my God.
Oh, that happened.
Oh,
it was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this is part of why I'm Meltdown City. I have an implant and the tooth has fallen off. I have an appointment next week, and I literally just spit it. That's not happened. That happened for you, I think, Lindsay. I hope. You're welcome.
So this has nothing to do with pet loss. My grandpa, okay, who is passed now, but like my grandpa he had two fake eye teeth, and he was a teacher. And at one, my dad has the photo, but like in one of the school photos that he took, he could click it up and down, right? Like there was So, and he would just do shit like this all the time. But in the photo in the yearbook, he clicked it so that not only are they gone, but it's like they look like they're in the middle of falling out.
I love him.
I love
it. I love him. I don't have a quick fix for this, so that's
okay, Court.
I mean, we should just. I think this. Hey guys,
it's a good angle.
I have been wanting to see this, so I feel very blessed.
Curly Sue only has two teeth.
Curly Sue, I'll get it, girl. Oh, girl, look at her eyebrows. Oh, she's perfect in every way.
She said,
"Holy bro,
she's
look at her little." And it looks like you. I love that you crimped her ears to make them look so perfect. I love.
Of course, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Duh. I need to just get a gold tooth.
People will come for me. They'll be like, "You should not crimp a dog's. You do not crimp her ears." Oh, look.
Hey, this is my one. Look at her.
Oh my gosh. Her name is
getting up from a nap. Her name is Lady Chunk.
I've called her Sacagawea, and I don't
Still.
actually. It's not Jasmine. Jasmine was a different cat.
Yep, this is
Lady Chunk. Lady Chunk. I
Chunk.
knew that.
Lady Chunk, because
Oh
she
my God.
weighs a little over 20 pounds.
She's a
She
chunky
came
bird.
to me when I adopted her. I got her when she was a year old,
Ooh.
and she then weighed 18 pounds. And this was right before, this was the Thanksgiving going into the lockdown, the pandemic.
Awesome.
So once kind of the pandemic hit a few months later, we were just shut in together, and both of us, really like to eat. So we just ate and ate for a couple of years, and then I got cancer, and it was like we were just stuck together in this house for a good 4+ years, not being able to go or do anything, and we both just kind of blossomed, and she gained a few more
And
pounds.
then I got
but
cancer.
This trauma bonding.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, guys. My tooth is falling out. My laptop's dying. I swear, in some other world, I'm on top of my shit. It does not appear that is the case today or yesterday or maybe even tomorrow, but
that's okay. We're all doing our best, and
this is what the best looks like.
Yeah, well, some days. I mean, I was like, I had to wait. This is like back to that. I was like, I have to make sure that if I'm going back to do this work, that I can be fully present, right?
For sure.
Because like that's what you deserve in grief support, and that's what I was scared. Like, am I going to be able to do that?
Right.
But it's actually it's what I realize is that it's it's so rewarding that it is a little bit healing to do to continue to do the work. So and allows me to kind of be present in a different way and connect in a different way.
I'm dying to ask you, Lindsay. So my sister's name is Lindsay.
Oh yeah.
And she spells it the right way, just like you do. All right. But she is a counselor, and she has talked to me before about compassion fatigue. What are your thoughts on compassion fatigue?
How much time you have?
Right? I know.
Yeah.
what is compassion fatigue?
So compassion fatigue is a huge issue in veterinary medicine, for one thing. A huge issue. So there are atypically high suicide rates in veterinary medicine, and there's an organization called Not One More Vet that works really hard to spread awareness about that and help with that. But a lot of it, and it's multi-layered. I mean, there are many reasons for that. But one of them, compassion fatigue, is a huge issue. And so essentially, sometimes I think people confuse it with burnout. Compassion fatigue is different. It's truly where, I think to work in vet med, you have to be able to compartmentalize certain things. So you're going into one exam room and it's an elderly man and he's putting down his dog and his wife died a couple months ago. And he says, I don't have any reason to live anymore. And we're like, do we have to call a welfare check? How can we help this person? Like, is that harmful or helpful? What do we do? And then you go immediately and it's like puppy vaccines in the next room. It's the cutest dog you've ever seen. And then there's a surgery. I mean, it's just, and so you extend so much of yourself in veterinary medicine. And oftentimes there are appointments and drop-offs and surgeries at the same time. There's all of these different things happening. And then every patient has a guardian attached, at least one. And so, I can think of times where I can think of a million times when they're grieving. Sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they check out, but I can think of so many times, like, for example, we had a Yorkie come in one time that was in heart failure, actually. And the guardian had no idea, which is very easy that happens, right? They didn't have any idea until it was pretty bad. And then she's coughing, and why is she coughing so much? And so I remember the woman just absolutely, was devastated and lost it. And then told me, well, you're gonna have to tell my son because I can't tell him. And I was like, what? And there was a little boy that was there with her. And so in the moment, it's like, well, so, and it's, one appointment of what, 60? Because this wasn't even an ER, but it's like, well, I either help, or she's in such a state that if she delivers it, it's probably going to be even more traumatic. So I help. But those are the kind of things that just happen over and over and over and over. And so certainly if you then are also understaffed, if you're under-resourced, if you are working in ER and you've got 40 patients that are hospitalized and there's only 3 of you there, I mean, it compounds with burnout. And yeah, you only have so many spoons, right? You only have so much of
Right.
yourself to give. So, and a lot of the times it's like the pizza parties don't really don't, don't really do so much for
Yeah.
No, they
especially
don't
at a
ever,
certain rate.
actually.
Yeah.
But it's really powerful that I have a couple of friends that are vets, and they are veterinarians.
Yep.
And they the Not One More has been a very big, because it's just unbelievable. I wish I had the smarts to be a vet. I just never had the math brain or any of that, and so I I just try to be of service to people that have lost their animals, and also people that and then animals themselves. Like, I've been to Best Friends in Utah, where they
Yeah.
took the Michael Vick dogs, and I mean, and I would love to say it was my idea, but I have 2 friends they've got PhDs, they're smart as heck, and they were like, "Would you like to come along?" And I was like, "Yes, animals have shaped my life and continue to shape my life and are the joy of my life." I had
Yeah.
never had kids, and I and pretty okay with it. I didn't know if I wanted them or not, so here I am. And I remember saying to my husband, I was like, I'm not really afraid of getting older, continuing to get older without kids, because animals, like, what a joy of life. I
Yeah.
mean, now that we have this, I would never have gotten a puppy, because I'm very pro getting older, complicated dogs that will get adopted. But which I have one, and he is so sweet, but he is scared of all things. So I got her for him, and the joy, oh my God, he is such a different dog already. It's only
You
been
got a
2
dog
weeks.
for your dog. Yeah. That's
Uh-huh.
what you
Well,
did.
because I got him to emotionally support me after I lost my emotional support animal, and then
Right.
he's like, "I'm not that dog." And so we needed to get an emotional support animal for us,
Right.
because neither of us are, but I think him and I have really come along. I mean, we've come a beautiful long way. He's a loving, sweet boy, but he just had a really tough early life, and it's
Yeah.
just yeah, it's who he is now.
It's hard. It's hard. And working for so long in with so many different people and in so many different facets of veterinary medicine too, you see different things. Like
Yeah.
rehoming is in itself, and I've had worked with people on this, like, is in itself a type of grief. So, I'll have
Yeah.
someone who's like, I had to rehome my cats at this age because of XYZ. And there are, having worked adjacent to a shelter, like, there are valid reasons to rehome a pet. There are also many people who see pets as disposable and accessories, and that's
Mhm.
heartbreaking. So
Mhm.
there's space for all of it. There are also, pets that I still think about. I mean, from ER and from working in nonprofit, that were, brought in by animal care and control from dog fighting situations and like
Oh,
didn't make it. And to have to, and I remember in ER, I remember one in particular that came in, and I will spare you the details, but it was terrible. And he couldn't be saved. But he was very sweet, and he was still eating though. And so we ordered him Chinese food. Like, we ran next door and got
oh,
Chinese food. And so yeah, so when you're talking about, like, so it all runs the gamut of, people who lose a pet, and then it's like they're, losing a limb or something. Where I refer to, like, losing Jack as like an amputation of my soul is what it feels like.
100%. Yeah.
And so there are people that connect to their companion animals on that deep of a level. And then there are people, the worst of the worst, who think they are disposable,
Yeah.
and someone steps in. And that's, in vet med often, where we see that compassion fatigue, is to be the person that continually steps in and supports on both ends of that spectrum. And it just, with no break. And it just, yeah, it's burnout, but it's an emotional
Oh, yeah.
burnout.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Totally.
So people will say, like, oh, is it draining to work with people who are, or to support people, like, sit with them in grief? And it's like, I mean, in some sense, yeah, but having seen what I've seen and worked in the spaces I've worked in, it's like these are the best part of humanity. Like these people are the best part of humanity because these are people who love their companion animals so much that, you know, that they're seeking that kind of support. So it is sad, but it's also incredibly rewarding, and it does remind you like there are really, really good people everywhere. And so many people just walking around grieving, just trying to do their best.
So true.
Yeah.
Like Emily has said multiple times, you just never know what other folks are carrying, you know, and they will carry, some may carry it very well. And I hate that saying like, oh, but you're doing it with such grace. Fuck grace. Fuck grace. Like, I
hear that a
I,
lot. I have heard
oh,
that so much over the past few months. And if anyone is listening that has said that to me, like that's very kind of you to say it, and I appreciate it in the moment. But also, no, I'm not. You know, when people are like, carry it with such grace. No, well, you haven't seen me
yeah, you don't fucking know.
in the worst
Right.
moments. I assure you, you know, it's ugly, and like grief can be really ugly. And yeah, and that's also okay.
I got that a lot with cancer.
I bet. Yeah.
Like external comments. Oh, you look so good. You're doing so good. Look at you. You're out doing this and it. Fuck off for one.
Yeah, I remember being at the visitation for our son. We had a visitation, and um I don't even, I mean it's a blur, but I remember someone that was like, I just don't know like how you're doing it or something. And I was like, well, the alternative is to fill my pockets with rocks and walk into a lake. I mean, like I'm just doing it because, you know, I'm doing it. Like
You have no
so
other choice.
My body wakes up every day. It wants to breathe. My heart wants to beat. My eyes want to open, and I'm functioning.
Yeah.
But inside, it's a bonfire of chaos and gremlins and tears and
Acid.
all the horrific things you can't even imagine, that you can't even put to words.
Right.
Yeah.
That is happening inside of me, and all the emotions. Some days I just wanted to fucking laugh because I couldn't be angry enough.
Yep.
You know,
I
and it just
understand that.
came out as laughter. And, you know, other days sobbing when I just saw a little bird outside. And
Right.
I mean, I think us as, you know, the human species, we're capable of so much emotion. And unfortunately, our society tells us to squash it down all
100%.
the time.
So this is something too that I talk about a lot if I'm supporting somebody is and remind myself of is we can carry so many things. I am so fucking sad every moment of every day, from the moment that I wake up and to the moment that I go to bed. And I've explained this to my mother, who's like, I just can't fix this for you, and it's killing me. You know, it's like I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm so fucking sad, but I'm also so grateful for the things that I do have and for my family. And like and I also have a lot of joy. Like we can hold a lot at one time. And I do tell people because society is really like, our culture is really like, you know, I hope the tide is turning, but there's a lot of like stoicism is often praised. And so so what I don't remember where I heard this, but I really like this idea that people say like grief comes in waves, which is true. In a lot of ways, that's true. Alternatively, sometimes it feels like joy comes in waves and grief is just the new baseline. But
yeah,
absolutely. Grief, it does come in waves, and sometimes it's totally unexpected. And so I like to tell people something that's helped me is, you know, when you're a kid and you're at the beach and like when a wave comes, I don't know if you remember doing this, like when a wave comes, you can't turn around and run from it. You would probably try. But the best thing you can do, and what you learn to do when you're a little kid, is to just dive into it, and you come out on the other side. And so I was talking recently to another mom who is in it's like a support group, and about just crying in public. And like when it comes, you just dive into it, and what other people think is their problem, not mine. That's not my business. But as RuPaul says, what other people think of me is none of my business. But
you know,
but The wise RuPaul. Um, but yeah, I think that, dive in. And sometimes that looks like, as it has for me, finding the bench that's at the grocery store and just sitting there and crying. And it just is what it is, or being on the floor of the nursery, or like Mother's Day was really hard for me, leaving if you need to leave.
Yeah.
And another wave will come, but there's a little while before it does, but you just sort of have to dive into it. I don't know. I don't think stoicism helps anyone. So that's a lot of what the supporting is just validating, that this is real. You hear her snoring.
I do. It's so perfect.
It's real cute.
You're boring her to death.
She's really bored. That pet loss grief is real grief, She's bored by
Well,
this, yeah.
I do want to say that I find the most I don't even know the word. Seeing you see footage of funerals sometimes, and
Yeah.
the ones where the women are screaming and crying and letting it out and breathing it in and being there in it. I feel like, why did we all stop doing that? Like, I don't, like my family, very stoic, and also kind of one of those things where, and this was more when we were younger, the generation above my parents' generation was, you keep your secrets at home,
Yep.
no one needs to see behind
Yeah.
the curtain. Like,
Silence.
yeah, exactly. And so, my mom has been through a lot of things where she kind of went through it in private, and didn't, but she, just really quickly, she, was raped when we lived in Guam. And she told me recently, this is something I had never known,
Yeah.
that women, when people learned about it, she had women that said, "Oh, well, you could see Sandy through the curtains. You could see her walking around in her nightgown." That was one group of people. And then other group would slip her notes quietly and not say a word, but say, "I've also been raped, and I am so sorry that you're going through this." Like,
Yeah.
those are like wild.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I segued from crying at funerals to
Yes.
mom's rape, but I always like to just bring in the mom rape because, who doesn't?
Just
Well,
drop
it's
that in
it's a
there.
lot well, it's a lot
Right.
more, I mean, sadly, probably many people can relate to that. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that's why I say therapy is wonderful. I am in therapy. I am not a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. I am not a therapist. I am a grief specialist. I'm here to sit with you, support you in your grief. If someone is, not eating for weeks on end, and there are certain things that it's like, please seek medical attention, seek specific help. But most of the time, what we need is for our grief to be tended and to be shared and to be witnessed and heard. And there is so much, healing is a word I'm always kind of weird about, because like grief isn't an illness. So like we don't, but there is so much healing in community,
Yeah.
for every kind of pet loss grief, where people often just feel so alone, and like, I'm not allowed to feel this way, or like I'm not allowed. I mean, we barely have bereavement leave for, you know, humans. I mean, much
Yeah.
less you say, I need to take, the week off because my dog died. I mean, there's a huge stigma attached there. So,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of parallels with, with pregnancy and infant loss and pet loss. I think, obviously they're not the same. And I always say, comparison doesn't help anybody. Grief competitions don't help anybody, but there are a lot of parallels in terms of how society views these things as not significant, or, not as debilitating
Yeah.
as they really are.
And it can be. It is. For me, I've lost one pet and I couldn't speak to anybody for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I feel a much stronger bond with my little one now than I did with the other one. And it keeps me up at night sometimes thinking it will happen. I mean,
Right.
either one of us could go first, but it will likely happen. And how will I get through it? So I'm glad to have met you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
It's, I think, and that's so common too, by the way. I hear that so often of like people will be like, "Hey, so I'm sitting here looking at my perfectly healthy 2-year-old cat.
Yep.
Just had
Mhm.
Right.
very dark thoughts," and it's like, no, that's normal. That's anticipatory grief. That's normal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're not crazy for thinking that.
Well, Emily, I'll tell you that I for years after I got in recovery, I was like, when my dog dies, I will not survive. Like I
Yeah.
just knew it.
Yeah.
My soul, she slept with me. Like after she died, in the middle of the night, I would reach for her. And so I started putting gummy bears in my bed, sour gummy bears. I would reach for sour gummy bears, and I still eat candy in bed to this day. Hey, that's how it takes what it takes. But
That's actually really smart. Did someone tell you to do that?
no, I just love candy and was like, fuck it.
Well, no, that's actually really, really smart, because just for anybody who's listening, because what you're what you're basically doing is like, if you are in the moment and you're like ruminating on something, or you're over, like you're having trouble coming back to the present moment, then eating something sour or putting something cold on your face is a really good way to do it. So you're it makes
Courtney,
sense.
you're ahead of the curve.
I was just curious if someone told you to do that, or if you just like
I think
intuitively.
it,
Oh.
and maybe somebody did, I don't recall. Like I always think like sometimes that was my idea, but I'm like, was it? But yeah, that was, and I still, now I'm on to jelly beans, but yeah, so I still eat them in bed, and tough shit. She was my life. But I will say it hurt like hell. It was,
Yeah.
there really isn't anything I can compare it to loss wise, that I've experienced in my life,
Right.
but I was ready for it. I didn't think I was ready for it. When it was happening, I wasn't ready for it. But looking back, like, you know, you don't think you're ready for it, but the universe will prepare you. That's just was my experience. But uh, yeah, I thought for sure I'm gonna just go get on heroin and just obliterate myself, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Cried a lot. I talked about it a lot. I cried in front of people a lot. That's
Yeah.
what's great about AA, man. You can go to an AA meeting and sob for an hour about your pet, and everybody is right there with you. Like,
Because grief deserves to be witnessed, and that is like the
yes,
most powerful thing, I think, is to be able to say, because I mean, if anybody's listening and you're like, how do I help a friend through any kind of loss, but pet loss as well? It's like when someone starts talking to you about it, if they want to talk about it, don't be weird. Don't just stop talking about it. Don't change the subject, ask them like, well, what's your favorite memory with your pet? Or like, what's something really funny that they did? I love talking about my pets. I love talking about Jack. It's really hard. It's really
yes,
hard, but the group of moms that I have for support who've also been through this, like, God bless the internet, is we talk about our babies all the time. And so, it's like, I know that our pets are all like little weird little individual beings, and I still remember things that I call her my soul dog, Ellie, who was an absolute terror, and hated everyone but me. She was like
that's
the
right.
worst, the worst. But I loved that dog. We understood each other. I was like, I see
Yeah.
you both unwell. Um, and she had like the most annoying habits, and then you miss them, And so just
Yeah.
talk about the
Absolutely.
weird little quirks that they had, and yeah.
Oh.
Keep that grief public. Like,
What do they say? If you put a light on something is the best way to I don't know. There's someone's listening and they're like
yeah,
shouting it.
They've
But what
got
is
it.
that?
Yeah.
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 Put some light on it. Shake, shake,
Shine a light
shake.
on.
Yeah. Get some air on it.
Put the stank on your grief. Get that out there. Make everybody see it, smell it.
Put the
TM.
stank on your grief.
TM. And sometimes you do just feel so unhinged in it too, also, which is
Mhm.
fine. Like, do you ever just want to, like,
Absolutely.
when when someone, like, there are so many times I was in the grocery store the other day, and there is a woman, she's not going to hear this. There's a woman behind me with like 8 jars of pasta sauce, which I'm not in, which was weird anyway. Like, no basket. What are you doing?
Oh,
That's a
So
disaster.
so close to the back of my neck, which is annoying, and on speakerphone, which is like just insufferable. And I'm just trying to get through. It was a bad day. I was like, I just need to get out of this grocery store. I can't people today. Like, it's a bad grief day.
yeah.
And she goes, "Excuse me." And I ignored her. And she said, "Excuse me." And I'm like, you know, And she said, this is all I have. Like, I think she wanted me to let her go in front of me, which was, I actually sometimes do let people go in front of me. I wouldn't
Yeah.
know. And I didn't, it was like one of these moments where I didn't know what to do. And so I just froze and then turned back around because I was so like, it was such a bad. But what I wanted to do was to yell. And I feel like this is just, it applies across the board for anybody who's great. Like, what I wanted to do was to yell, my baby died. That's what I wanted to do. It's like, my baby died, you know, and which would have been very confusing and disorienting.
But also,
Sorry. And I know, you know, people in when you're in pet loss grief too, like grief is that it's different for all of us. And, but there is like this universal language of it where you have these days where you're like, I just feel unhinged.
yes.
That's normal too. Anyway, again, I'm Michael Scotting again. I don't know where I was going with it.
No, but I want to ask, what happened with the jar gal?
Oh, I literally, I told the moms in the support group about this. I was like, here's the thing where it's like, what did you do today that was unhinged? I literally just stared at her. I literally just stared at her. So she's like, this is all I have. And I was like,
Good.
I just turned back around and then and I didn't say anything. And it was legal. So it's like it's already like a high pressure sport because you have to bag your own stuff. And so you're just like, I'm doing my best, you know.
Good for you. I bet she felt it. Yeah, I bet you that she was like, something's up and I'm going to back down.
I mean, maybe I will say for anyone who's going through grief right now that if you are sitting there thinking like, oh my God, I never realized in my life how many people lack the capacity to read the fucking room. Like, you're not alone. That is so real.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
I have always been pretty good at reading the room, but I mean, that's when you realize when you're like going through it, there are a lot of people who I don't know how they've made it this far in life without just, you know, walking into oncoming traffic. I mean, they cannot read a room.
They don't. They're just in themselves.
Yeah, that is not you. That is a reflection of those people. But
while we've been talking, my cat has brought in 2 of her toys. She wants me to play with her.
It's time to play, ma'am.
But you're gonna say grew up or something.
Oh, no.
They do that.
So cute. She drags them in from the other room and she's like, all right, I'm up. Let's focus on me now.
Yeah. Let's get back to the real joy of life, which is
well, before we let you go, Lindsay, Courtney has a question to ask you.
What? She's like, do I? I don't know.
What do we always ask?
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. My tooth, I thought tooth was falling out. I do have a question to ask. I just had to, here we go. There's no THs in the question, I don't think.
No.
The question is, what's the nicest thing that someone's ever done for you? And it can be small, big, recent, long time ago, like just pops into your head.
I mean, I'm very fortunate that we have so much love and support that has surrounded us all the time. And I think that's probably because of the circles I'm in. Like, animal people are good people. And my family is good people. So, so there are so many, especially lately, that it is really hard. Like, the number of people who have showed up just to be like, hey, this thing that happened to you, like losing your baby, it's really fucking terrible. And you don't have to pretend it's not. I mean, that's means a lot. I think the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, I don't know about nice, but kind. I don't know if I can get this one out, but my husband, I think when you go through something like this, it makes or breaks you. And again, we were surrounded with so many good people. My OB came and nurse came to the visitation. I mean, but my husband, when his mom was dying, when she was in hospice in 2022, he was basically her primary caregiver. And I remember he had like a little chart. And I was like, I can show you how to make a treatment sheet. We do that at work. But so he essentially had a treatment sheet for her medications and all of the different things that she needed. And, you know, if you've had someone in hospice, you know what that's like. And I thought, God, I hope, you know, we never have to do this again. And then when Jack died, and we came home, we came to my parents' house because they were watching our daughter. And we got there and they were just like a godsend. But I mean, I couldn't do anything. I, was just helpless, really. And so, and now looking back, it's like it makes or breaks you. You find out who people really are. And for us, he was making a treatment sheet again. And I was like, right back here again. He had an alarm set on his phone to make sure I drink water like every hour. I think it helped him in a way to take care of me. But there are these moments that I remember, like, you know, where I just given birth and with no baby. And so to where I was really weak and not able to like shower on my own, or I needed him to dress me and all of these different things. Um I ended up getting mastitis because I was like overproducing milk and there was no baby. Like there's just all these horrible layers.
Right.
And just the way that he took care of me, I think, is a horrible, horrible thing, but also like just made us closer in a way that like nothing else really can. And so, yeah, that's hard to even articulate in words, but I think that's probably the kindest thing. And then the other one maybe is, I remember I was talking to my mom after we had come home, and she was like, I said something about like people no one can understand what this feels like. And she was like, well, what does it feel like? And I was like, no one has asked me that. Like, you know what I mean? And I realized that no one had asked me that. And that's the kind of person she is. She doesn't shy away from tough things. And then maybe I could do this all day, but the last one I'll do is I had a doula as well, Keisha, who's great, and
Keisha.
Keisha ended up being a doula in a different way. Obviously, I mean, she still was incredible and was with me in the hospital, and that was the plan always. But she was by my side. But I remember coming home from the hospital and just being like, I don't know, and I just kept saying like, I don't know how we can do that. I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I knew we're going to walk into this house and there's an empty nursery. And like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And she was like, well, I'll come with you. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to, I don't think that's, I don't know if that's part of the job description. But she, my husband went to get antibiotics for me, and she did not want me to be in the house in the nursery alone. And there was an ice storm. Also, there was an ice storm when this was happening too. So it wasn't it wasn't easy for her just to be like bebopping around. You know what I mean? But she came and sat with me in the nursery, and did not shy away from any of it. And that was, she came to the visitation too. That meant a lot. I think that the kindness that people have showed us and showed me since January is has just been overwhelming.
Yeah. What is your husband's name? Do you mind if I ask?
No, I don't mind. His name's Jay.
All right, Jay. All right, Keisha, Bebop and Keisha, and your mama.
Karen, but she's not really a Karen.
Oh God, poor thing. All those poor Karens.
She doesn't get mad. So when people are like, "You're such a Karen," like she doesn't get mad because she's like, "But that's not me. Why would I get mad?" So,
it's perfect. That's like the full circle. Wow,
I love it. Oh, well, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. It's so many wise words and just, thank you. If people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me. I'm not a huge social media person, but I have Instagram. I have a work Instagram, and that's Everkin Pet Loss. Okay. So Everkin, like forever family. So Everkin Pet Loss. And then I also, my website is everkinpetloss.com.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you.
I mean, either of those places.
Great. Well, anyone struggling with pet grief, she's a good, wonderful resource to have.
Unbelievable. Just the validation I think that you provided in this episode for people, like saying the pet losses, just, because you've experienced two major losses. But what you said was just so powerful. I just really, that's moved me. And I still have to process. It's so beautiful. So thank you so much.
I think all grief deserves support. And when we support each other instead of sort of trying to compete, it helps everybody. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. If you need to reach out to us, we can always get in touch with Lindsay as well. You can email us at thatwasn'tttheplanpod@gmail.com. And please follow and subscribe wherever you listen and watch all your podcasts.
smash that like button. I'm just kidding.
That's
Yeah,
right. Give
right?
us those likes.
Hey guys.
Just subscribe, rate, review, follow us. It helps.
That
It
dead
helps.
ass.
All right. Well, until next time, Lindsay, Courtney, thank you.
You. Yeah. Take care.
And okay. Bye-bye, everyone.